Hi, welcome to Art and Soul. I'm your host, Kelly MacIntyre. And on this week's show, we're going to be learning about finding love after 52 years of marriage, where they're going to hit the road to discover how to create the perfect pumpkin. And we close the show this week with 5440. All in the next 30 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Art and Soul starts now. Well, Roses in November. The plot says hilarious comedy, but it's almost a love story in the end. And I'm here with Jeff. You're the lead actor of this. You're playing George. This is an interesting play because originally when you read the script, you know, it sounds like it'd be more of a comedy, but an interesting journey through this play. So let's, Jeff, tell us a little bit about the plot of this.
Well, it starts out with a grumpy old man and the way he treats his wife, and she's had enough. Mm-hmm. So after 52 years of marriage, she walks out on him. And the course of the play is a reconciliation with the grumpy old man and the wife who's had enough. And it goes in a nice big circle of George coming around to realizing that he really does need his wife.
So love prevailing in the end.
Yes.
Now I know you in comedic roles and things like
Right.
that. It's a kind of a saucy, fun beginning because doesn't she disappear in a cab and he's left kind of waiting and
Right.
waiting for his dinner.
He's expecting her to come home
Mm-hmm.
when she's hungry.
Yeah.
And he's in denial basically of like that his wife of 52 years would leave, and he's not upset at the fact that she's left. He's upset at the thought of his wife leaving him.
Yes.
It's just not
Inconvenient to him because yes, the laundry needs to be done.
She always does as she's told.
Yes.
So she'll come back.
Mm-hmm. Not today.
Right. So it goes through the story of George talking with his son, and the son being very concerned about his mother. First time she's ever done this, even though they've had rows and rows and rows. And George figuring his son's interfering in his life, which he shouldn't be doing. And then we switch to Olivia at the senior's home, and a crusty old Romeo there.
Had to find his
chatting her up.
Wooing her again after 52 years.
It ends up with George wooing her to get her to come back home. At the end of the play, it's a really nice, touching moment, if we do our jobs correctly.
Yes.
For me, it's a delight. When I read the play, I loved it. The fact that we have the writer, Neville J. Bryant, directing it is just a super added bonus.
And it's close to home. He's written this. It's from the heart. He's sitting there. He knows how
right. It's a true story.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's Neville's parents we're talking about. So it's kind of poignant. And there is a message in there. And hopefully the audience will identify with the characters in the play and understand what's going on.
And your role, lead actor. Congratulations.
Well, lead male actor.
Lead male actor.
The lead actor is actually Sue Cranford, who plays Olivia. I'm supposed to be crusty and miserable at times, which, as you know,
what a stretch,
Kelly,
what a stretch, Jeff.
It's called good acting to be able to pull
Jeff,
this off.
that's a stretch for you in this one. But coming in the end is the romantic debonair, George, wooing Olivia.
The nice thing is, as I say, with Neville directing it, he's leading me down the paths where it has to go, so it's not that much of a stretch for me to hopefully accomplish what he wants to accomplish.
Creatively. Right? Yeah. I mean, it's nice because you do so many comedic roles, but to actually take you on that full circle where, she's walked out and it's a wonderful story, but then that tender moment at the end, it must be nice for you to have a story and a plot like this to work with. It is.
As I say, for me, it makes a difference that it's a true story. So I'm trying to identify with George and what his emotions are. But it's going to be a tearjerker at the end, but in a nice way.
In a nice way, a tender way. And it might bring some romance to some of these couples that are looking, we've been married 50 years.
and have an argument.
Before I get that cab. Now, again, Milton Players, it's going to be here. Is it 2 weekends? We've got the
it's
the
2
2nd,
weekends.
3rd, 4th of November.
Right.
As well as the 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Right.
Wonderful.
And that's in the Min-Max Hall, which is a very nice, smaller space, so it lets the audience get close to us.
Yeah.
We're going to have a real nice set, which we always do.
Always do, yeah.
And we hope to sell this one out. Our audience numbers have been going up, so we're pleased with that. This is our 2nd season at the MCA. It's a delightful facility, as you know. You've walked around it too.
Yeah.
So we invite everybody to come down and see the show and have a good evening's entertainment.
Well, again, Roses in November. We've got this going on in November. And again,
Right.
for more ticket information, where can they go, Jeff?
For tickets, you should go to the MCA box office. Information about Milton Players with a link to the MCA, you would go to www.miltonplayers.com. Information is on there of who we are, what we do, and how we do it. We're in 20-something year of operation. We've been around a long time in the community. A lot of dedicated people doing what needs to be done to put on what we believe is quality live theatre. So again, we'd like to see a large audience come out and enjoy this show.
And Jeff, before we close, now, your wife.
Yes.
Do you find you're a bit more romantic these days?
Absolutely.
Really? Okay, so she's not going to get,
No, she's not getting a cab anytime
Is she getting
soon.
roses in November?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank
We'll be
you.
back in just a moment. Well, Halloween is just around the corner, and we're always looking for ideas for pumpkins. So for this week's The Art Of, we're hitting the road and visiting Speckles Art Studio to learn a few new ideas and a new twist on decorating the pumpkin. Tracy, this is going to be fun. We're going to show people a little bit about varieties of pumpkins, different, kind of creative activities to do with the family, and some fun, entertaining ideas, as well as carving a pumpkin, or attempting to on my part. But you were at Andrewsina Acres, and again,
Yes.
they've donated the pumpkins today. And pumpkins, I mean, you think of, families are picking up this orange one. There's so many varieties. So some of them are actually, you had mentioned before we went to camera, artwork in themselves for even ornamental for decorating the home. So maybe take us through some of these interesting shapes.
Okay, some of these gourds and pumpkins I picked up, I didn't even want to touch them. So we'll be doing some things over there that I crafted or painted or carved. But sometimes you just find a pumpkin or a gourd that you just don't want to mess with. They were so interesting and unique, and that can be art in itself. You can just display them and find an interesting basket, or, don't have to touch them. They look great as is.
And the thing is, Halloween, they're saying, is a new Christmas. For
I think so.
entertaining and people spending money, but
it's a big holiday.
It's big, and again, if you're having a children's party, even the adult parties, thinking of something interesting for a table center, you've
Yes.
sort of, again, a Speckles Art Studio, you're into the arts and you're so creative.
Right.
But I found this fascinating, this next little station we've got set up because you've been using spray paints. In different, different colors and different, textures, and I mean, it's amazing what you've done here and creative. So maybe tell the viewers what you've done here with.
Sure.
This.
If you don't feel that you have that creative gene, there's always some simple things you can do that are kind of clever, or they look sharp, and you can put them on your table. This is just a little bit of yellow. I taped it off and used spray paint. The top I used spray paint, and then it just sort of started to drip, so I went with that. It looks like a candy corn sort of a look. But you can tell that's a real pumpkin under there. It's not a fabricated thing, which is what I like to do. This one is, I covered the stem with masking tape, and then I just used spray paint. I didn't do it too heavily, but I thought it almost looks like a ceramic pumpkin.
Yeah, or pearlized almost.
Exactly, yeah. And so it just, you know, that sitting on your table can be kind of unique and interesting.
That looks like something you'd buy in a store for decoration, and you know, but
That's
again,
true.
it's sprayed.
That's right.
But it's just these pumpkins that you can buy in these, you know, even a mesh bag at the grocery store.
That's right.
Not a lot of
it changes
money out, you know?
changes the look of it. And this
Oh,
one
this I
too is
love.
just a straight, a little bit of it's chipping off. It could probably use another coat, but just one full even coat of any color spray paint you want, and it gives it a totally different look.
And Tracy, I was looking at the Chatelet magazine this month,
Yes.
the front cover. They've got an idea very similar to this, and I thought this was brilliant. Again, for entertaining, for, you know, if you had a daughter, they'd love it.
Absolutely,
But
yes.
thinking of different colors you could do with a gold or a black or silver. Look at this. Tell people about
choose
this
whatever it is, the flower. These are artificial, but you could actually use real flowers and put some water inside. A real pumpkin. This is hand painted with acrylics, but again, you could spray paint to make it easier. And I actually put an acrylic varnish on there just to make it sort of shiny.
And fun to do things with the children, and finding
Absolutely.
where they can
Yes.
kind of explore their creativity, which is what you're all about.
There's a
here,
bit of a
too.
crossover. I have some things for kids over there, but absolutely,
Yeah.
you might have somebody, your child can help you
Or
to
paint.
put that together.
And you could
Definitely.
do that with acrylic paints or something like a folk art paint.
I
Can you
used
get into
I
that?
used acrylic on that. You can even use latex, like if you have a little bit of house paint left over, it will do the trick.
Yeah.
Spray paint. If you're going to use a tempera, though, that's a water-based paint. You don't want to do that. You want to use something that isn't water-based.
Now we're going with bling and polka dots.
A little bit of bling
So let's
coming
scroll
up.
up here. And again, this is all fun ideas. And now we're looking at the larger polka dots, but take us through this one, even the
Sure.
little one. It looks like there's a lot of work involved.
There's a little bit
But,
of work. It's not too difficult, and I can show you the tools I used a little bit later on. But what it is basically is this is a punched out core of a pumpkin. So it's all natural. There's no painting involved in this pumpkin or this one. This is a green pumpkin. This is a spaghetti squash, and this one is another kind of a pumpkin. But this was done with an apple corer. So you pop the core out, you pop a core in from another type of squash or pumpkin, and instantly you've got polka dots. So there's no, it's more of a you know, something, if you can use tools in the kitchen, you could do this, and I think it looks really impressive.
Oh, definitely. And then we talked about a little bit of bling and having some fun. And
Sure.
So here, I'll put this one off to the back, but this is really fun too. And again, with a sparkle. And look at this as well.
This is actually, underneath there is an artificial pumpkin. So you can use the little craft pumpkins. This one is a real pumpkin. I prefer the real pumpkin simply because I like when people look at it and they sort of have to wonder, is that real pumpkin? So it's nice when it's real. This one just is covered with Mod Podge and some tissue paper. You could certainly go further with this and put rhinestones or pearls or buttons or anything you wanted. You can just sort of glue all over. And again, that's a crossover to something kids really enjoy. This, I lucked out. I found these little, they were already stickers. They were just from the dollar store, and I just put strips down the pumpkin. So
But
pretty
even
simple.
Having a house party, even thinking about setting up the bar, appetizers on a table, you could really do some fun things. Again, not a lot of money out, but creatively, you can really have a good time with this. Now, we've done stickies, painting, and everything else. But hey, who hasn't got a Sharpie? And again, with children around, oh my gosh, we go to this next center, and this is just a matter of, you know, just doing some drawing, and so even from simple to a little bit more, you know, complex.
A little bit
but
ornate.
Show us about, you know, this is kind of a fun idea too for children.
Definitely it's something you can do as a family. Everyone has different skill abilities. These ones were done by my two sons. So you can make it Halloween and decorations, and, you know, just sort of take a Sharpie and doodle all over. My one son, he sort of, this one could go right in the middle of the table. He really went to town. It's got all his little stuff on there. This is one that I was working on. So these little gourds are fantastic because they're hard as a rock and they last a long time. So you can do it early in the season, decorate it just with a Sharpie marker, gives it a nice sort of a shiny sheen, and you don't have to worry about it coming off, which is the great part. This one is sort of a two-step process. I first spray painted this little guy, and then I just did some dots using a Sharpie.
And again, you've used the Sharpie, but again, going back to the paint, you can get so many creative ideas today because you could actually do that white and add a hint of color.
Absolutely,
or
yeah,
something,
and you
a
don't.
little different.
And polka dots are always an easy
yeah.
way to
Exactly.
to be impressive.
Now we've got our space alien.
Yes,
And
he's kind of a
with his
demon,
teeth, yes.
demonic guy.
And we've got googly eyes. And
yes.
How much fun was this? This is great, and again, interactive. And oh my goodness, here we go.
Kid friendly.
Yes,
for sure. Well, these two little guys are just, again, examples of using, just really, you can use a permanent marker. They're fantastic. You just want to make sure that you really wipe your pumpkin off.
Okay.
Make sure it's at room temperature, because they sort of sweat if they're outside, and make sure it's perfectly dry before you use the marker. Kids love to carve pumpkins. It depends on, of course, their age, but when they're ready for doing that, there's always they always love to add extras. So you can use other vegetables. I found these again at the dollar store, these little teeth, and I thought they would be fantastic. So, you know, you let your kids design, help them with the carving, or depending on their age, they can sort of, with supervision, go ahead and do it themselves.
An interesting nose on this phone. So that's the stem of another.
It is. It's one of the gourds that we saw earlier. The stem fell off, and sometimes I will actually hot glue a stem back on. You can do that, but this sort of lended itself to that guy.
And fun with a pack of googly eyes.
Simple too.
Simple for this.
Exactly. It doesn't take much.
And again, this little guy, he's a riot. This little mummy.
That's just made with cheesecloth.
Okay.
A lot of glue and Mod Podge, and you know, kind of, it's not too difficult. You just follow.
But something so different.
Follow the directions.
Yeah, something so different.
A little bit different.
And the thing is that here at Speckles Art Studio, it's a place where children can be creative and that kind of thing with different, you know, camps and things like that. But you had a project recently, and maybe come over and show us this one.
Sure.
This was something, an interactive project, but you've actually got it on your website as well. So for the parents that are watching who'd like to do this activity with your children, Tracy's got that up on the website. We'll have that on the screen. You can actually print it off and create this with your children this week, leading up to Halloween. So maybe tell us a little bit about that, Tracy. Come on over here, and I'll get these out of the way. But maybe describe what you were doing with these.
This is just really simple sewing techniques with kids. We use craft felt and large darning needles and embroidery floss. It's, you know, you're just teaching a child to stitch up the side. It can be very simple. They do a little face using beads and again some stitches. They usually need, depending on their age, they might need a bit of assistance with the stem on the top, but it's a great way to make a little pumpkin that you can sort of pull out every year and you know, have a pumpkin that they made
and fun
from scratch.
From scratch. And the thing is, having that tip, you've got that on your website. It makes it easy because you print, you cut, and you have a fun.
The template will be posted and the directions as well, and the list of materials.
We've got these are fun. So for everybody that's been kind of taking us, we've been strolling along learning about pumpkins, a little bit of color, a little bit of fun with the Sharpies, googly eyes. But now, Tracy, you gotta tell me about these guys. These characters over here are fabulous. And again, this is taking it up another notch.
It's absolutely
with pumpkin design.
These are basically all the things we just discussed, but if it's something you're passionate about and you really enjoy, or you have a little bit of a flair, you can take it to another level. This one's not really that difficult. It was just a question of finding the perfect pumpkin and finding an image that you wanted to reproduce onto the pumpkin. Everyone probably knows that you can't carve a pumpkin too early or they start to look.
They cut,
A trick for that actually is you can put Vaseline on the cut parts and it will actually keep the pumpkin alive longer. But this one is just drawn on with a Sharpie. You could do this weeks ahead of Halloween and have this displayed. The night before Halloween, you can actually still carve it out and have a tip, you know, like a real jack-o'-lantern.
And this one looks like it's almost got a leather, you know, funky look.
It does have that sort of a look.
Is that paint?
It's just a Sharpie again.
Oh my gosh,
I did actually touch up with a little bit of black paint on the stem. Once everything was dry, this is just acrylic painted dots on top, and it's not that difficult, but it turned out it has such a great look.
We've got a little Angry Bird.
That's right. That's right.
Tell us about this one as well. Is that paint, or is it?
That is all paint. I originally drew it in again with a Sharpie. I'm very fond of those things. Permanent marker just to draw in your design. Then I painted it, and then I went back again with the Sharpie to tune up the little edges, and I did a layer of acrylic varnish on top. It sometimes comes out a little bit matte looking, so if you put the little layer of varnish on top, it makes it look super shiny.
Oh, great. And again, this is something everybody's familiar with,
yes.
The carved pumpkin. But what we're going to do, Tracy, is we've taken people through a bit of information, but we're actually going to take a quick break, come back, and we're going to carve an interesting traditional pumpkin. Be back in just a moment on Art and Soul. Welcome back to Speckles Art Studio, and now we're doing a hands-on demo and getting a few tips from Tracy herself behind your creative table. And we were talking earlier about, again, putting the polka dots in these pumpkins.
Yes.
You're actually going to show us again with one of your tools how simple that is for people to do at home.
That's right. All you need is an apple coring tool. Like this one is the one that I have, but they do come in different varieties. You're going to take one color of squash, whatever you've chosen to do. Actually, this one's a little bit tough, so. And then twist. This will be a little bit harder than the pumpkin. Pull it out, and what it will do is it will actually just pop out like this, and it makes a core, a little plug. We poke a hole in the pumpkin where we want our polka dot. Makes another core, and we take the one of the opposite color, clean this up a little bit, and you just poke it in there, and you've got yourself a polka dot.
Oh, wonderful. And again, we've got the example of the
That's right.
smaller tools and things, but you've got 2 tips for us.
Yes.
One is the way you're carving these pumpkins, because I'm used to, and we've got to tell the people the name of this.
Peduncle.
Peduncle is the stem. But what I'm used to seeing, and again, probably everybody at home, is you'd lift this up and you'd cut around here, creating your top.
Yes.
And then you'd start scooping, but not with yours.
No, not me.
Look
I
at
like-
under here.
That's
So
right.
you go through the bottom.
That's right.
So funky. So tell us the reasoning behind that.
When this is sitting outside, people will notice it. In fact, I found a lot of people will see my pumpkins and they'll say, is that real? Because they're not used to seeing the top on with it lit up. If you carve through the bottom, you can put artificial lighting in there, like the little tea lights. It's a little bit safer. You're not worrying about a lit candle, and you just have that nice look on the top. You don't have to worry about any mistakes. It never seems to fit. Put the candle in, you can't put the lid on. So it's a way of saving the peduncle to make it
And again,
attached.
saving the pumpkin, you gave us a tip earlier. Let's remind
Yes.
the viewers. Vaseline.
That's right.
What
On
was
all
your
of the
partner?
cut areas, if you just coat them with a little bit of Vaseline, it will prevent them from, give them a little bit of a longer
And
life.
you've got sort of a two-tone going on here. Maybe show us how you do a tooth where we kind of, I think it takes on almost that creamy tone to it. So maybe show
That's
us
right.
that.
Well, like our other guy over there,
Yeah.
you want to sort of carve these teeth out in 3D. Do a little bit of an outline first. I do that in marker. Again, I have access to some special tools here, woodworking tools, but I use this tool here to sort of scrape a line. You can get away with it with a paring knife and a kitchen knife if you have to.
And these
but-
guys.
Yes, I just carved a hole, recessed it a little bit, and popped a couple of gourds in there to make googly eyes, and we can color on there or whatever we want to do.
So I think the
Poke some
idea
holes
is
out.
to just have fun.
Absolutely.
Right? Have fun
Yes.
with this and enjoy it with the family. And again, you've got the pattern on your website.
That's
so maybe
right.
tell everybody your website again where people can go to.
www.specklesartstudio.com, and I'll post the directions and the template for the felt stuffed animal.
Oh, great.
Stuffed pumpkin.
And thanks for letting us come today.
My
And You
pleasure.
took it up to a whole different notch, and you've got me inspired with my Sharpie, because we have our official Art and Soul TV COGECO pumpkin here at Speckles Art Studio. So again, thanks so much for being part of our show today and giving us some great tips. Thanks to Andrew Scenic Acres again for donating the pumpkins today for our segment. And for everyone at home, have a very happy Halloween. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Art and Soul. Well, One Day in Your Life hit the airwaves back in 1987, and the group 5440 did not look back. Platinum and gold albums to follow. They are one of the best Canadian bands to see live, and you can see them here November the 10th. We're closing the show today with a little 5440.
So you're feeling down and out, like nobody wants to see you around, and you wanna just fly discover that your darkness still bleeds, but too often your mouth runs dry. The thirst is killing you, and you don't have too much time. Waiting for the next sky train, standing in the rain. Am I to understand you're never coming back again? Don't you go, don't run away. What kind of choice can you make when you fall away and crawl into a spell? You lose the gift of yourself. How can I follow you? What are you gonna do? I should be moving on, because you have never ever known how to live with the burning bliss of being alone. Waiting for the next sky train, standing in the rain. Am I to understand you're never coming back again? Don't you go, don't run away. What kind of choice can you make when you fall away and crawl into a spell? You lose the gift of yourself. How can I follow you? What are you gonna do? Don't you go, don't run away. What kind of choice can you make when you fall away and crawl into a spell? You lose the gift of yourself. How can I follow you? What are you gonna do? I should be moving on.
Well, that's Art and Soul for this week, and we'd like to thank Green Ginger 2 as well as the beautiful Milton Center for the Arts. And thanks for all your emails. We love hearing your show ideas and comments. Well, for everyone at TV COGECO, I'm Kelly MacIntyre, and we'll see you next week.